Hi there, my name is Trina. Welcome to my page. This page is about misery and all the different forms that happens here on earth. Mainly I cover crime and murder. So there are many forms of misery, so I explore them and I give my opinion. Viewer discretion is always advised on my videos because we are talking about crime and murder. That it brings up emotions and shock, which can, if you're not prepared, it can mess with your self-care. So the reality is that this type of stuff does exist on this earth. My opinions are just that, my opinions. That does not mean that that is the way that you should view them. You should always take the time and investigate and look into some of the stories I'm telling you about. So I have done research on the topic, and I just want to honor the victims by opening it up and letting people see what they had to endure. They matter, you matter, and I matter, so please be kind to everyone. Make room for them and their differences. Their opinions does not have to line up with yours for you guys to, or for anybody to get along and find common ground somewhere. So be nice to everyone in your life and on the chat if you ever decided to say something. Self-care is always important. Take time to take care of yourself. Once again, viewer discretion is advised on my videos. This is not for children. So let's see the victim's misery and honor them and hearing about it and learning something. So humans have free will, and sadly this is what some of them choose to do with that. That does not mean that God wants it. He didn't allow it. It's just whenever we're here on earth, he is still the author of love and compassion and healing. And here on earth, sometimes it can be the exact opposite, and people have free will, and that's something that he gave us. So he is still on the throne, and life can be ugly at the same time. And it's really hard to understand and to grasp that. But I've been through things in my life that have made me get to a point to where sometimes I hated God. But I've soon realized throughout my life that he's still there for us. We live on earth, and we will endure things until we get to heaven. So just make room for everybody around you. But let's learn something about the story today. So let's get started, y'all. So happy Mother's Day. Today is Mother's Day. So anybody who's watching who's a mother, happy Mother's Day. I forgot to say that before the intro. So I wanted to talk about today, I've only done one story for Utah. This is another story for Utah. Now, his name is Arthur Gary Bishop, and his crime spree was from July 14th of 1983 to October 14th of I got that backwards. October 14th of 1979 to July 14th of 1983, and it included 5 young boys. Now, like I said, viewer discretion is advised. There's some really just downright disgusting things in here. I don't like doing these, but these poor babies, I mean, this man is accused of, he was born in September 29th, 1952. He was a serial killer and a sex offender. So you know where I'm going with this. I will not be using the word sex. Or sexual assault. I will be using SA if anybody wants to know what that means. He was apprehended and caught on July 24th of 1983. He was executed by lethal injection at the Utah State Prison in Draper, Utah. His aliases were Lynn Jones, Roger W. Downs. This is what he was accused of: 5 counts of first-degree murder, 5 counts of aggravated kidnapping, SA of a minor, and embezzlement. So he was born in Hinckley, Utah. He's the oldest of 6 brothers. He was a devout Latter-day Saints member. He was a member of the Eagle Scouts, and he was an honor student. So there's definitely, I don't know, like a degree of, why would this person do this? You know, like he's got it together. But then again, like I said, there eventually comes a time where you choose, and if you choose to go down a route, you're gonna take it all the way. I mean, that's why it's very, very wise to be careful in dabbling in some things, because it can devastate a lot of people, including yourself, in your life. So in any case, in 1978, he was accused of, or arrested for embezzlement. He had a 5-year suspended sentence, skipped parole, and fled to Salt Lake City, Utah. Under one of his aliases, Roger Downs, he was excommunicated from his church. And in 1979, he joined the Big Brothers program, and then he was forced out because he was found to have been molesting other children. So, some of this will be really sad, so just bear in mind, if you need to take a break, take care of yourself, okay? So the boys ranged in age from 4 to 13, and he essayed and murdered them. So I'm bringing honor to Alonzo Daniels. I will not state their age. I just wanted to do it at an age range. So Alonzo Daniels, Claude Hemley Peterson, Danny Davis, Troy Ward, and Graham Cunningham. So I'm going to start in order of the way I've listed them. So Alonzo was lured from his apartment complex. He was in the courtyard by Bishop offering him candy, free candy. Now remember, this was back in the day, so I'm pretty sure like it was way more relaxed back then. Now we know that there's that craziness that happens pretty consistently. So, but back then he was lured with candy. He attempted to essay him. He took him to the bathroom, and he ended up hitting him over the head with a hammer. And then he drowned him. And the most insane part about this, which just kind of like shook my soul, honestly, was he had put this child in a bag, and while his mother was out in the courtyard screaming for him, trying to find him, he walked right by his screaming mother with him wrapped in a bag. So he ended up burying her son in Cedar Valley. So there's more to this story, which I will not mention because it is so graphic, but I will just say that he did unspeakable things to this little boy's body. And he took Alonzo and buried him in a box. And then he continued to get thrills out of killing animals after this to relive it. And this was admitted by him, so it wasn't something that somebody just came up with. It was actually something that he had admitted. So, in another instant, this young boy, he wasn't murdered by him, but John, they put in quotations, he exchanged for money and expensive toys to be essayed. And on November 8th of 1980, John was introduced by John to Kim Peterson, which was the second little boy. And he wanted to sell some skates to him, which is what the ruse was, to get him around him. And so Bishop lured Peterson to the woods on the another ruse of hunting rabbits. So as they were walking to go do this, Peterson was in front of Bishop, and he shot Peterson with a revolver, but he did not perish. So he ended up shooting him a couple more times. And so, once again, I will not mention in detail because it is just not something I want to do. He did unspeakable things to Peterson's body as well, and he buried Peterson close to where he buried Alonzo. So we're up to 2 now. Now, after Kim Peterson, that situation, law enforcement was closely questioning Bishop, but he was not considered a suspect. And in that instance, I believe it was either the first or the second one, the witnesses said that they saw a man. He was white, 25 to 35 years old, 200 pounds, with dark hair. So that's what was circulating around to try to find Bishop. And I will post a picture about who he is, like his picture. I don't want to give him too much credit and anything. I want this to be about the victims. So, but yes, he closely resembled it to an extent, but they weren't exactly looking for him. So on October 20th of 1981, he lured the third boy, Danny Davis, from a supermarket that he lived really close by, like a week, half a block away. So that's pretty close. He ended up crying tremendously, of course. And Bishop ended up putting his hands over his nose and mouth, and because there were other little boys coming to his home, I don't know if they were just coming to visit or if he had lured them also, and it was just that time that he had lured them under the ruse of skates or whatever. He bagged Danny and put him in the corner of the kitchen. The only difference about Danny was that he was not essayed by Bishop. And he was the only one of the 5 that was not. So a $20,000 reward was offered, and the shoppers recalled a man smiling at the little boy. And that ensued a huge surge in Salt Lake County's history. And the searchers, they poured over the neighborhoods. There was divers going around and seeing if they could find anything. There was even shoppers who agreed to be hypnotized to see if they could try to recall what happened. Bishop at that time had agreed to not ever do this again. But like I said, if you don't heal, if you don't change, if you don't do the things that you need to do to not do it again, just by saying it is not going to help you. Eventually it will overtake again. So 2 years later, on June 22nd in 1983, he abducted his 4th victim, Troy Ward. I have a hard time saying Troy, but I just did it. Look at me. He was waiting on the corner for his mom because it was his birthday, his 6th birthday, and he was waiting for that ice cream and cake. And so Ward was offered to play a game by Bishop. So Bishop handcuffed him because he thought it was part of the game, and tied him up. So to silence him, he put a trash bag over him and hit Ward on the head with a mallet, a plastic mallet. and he put him in a stream in Big Cottonwood Canyon there in Utah. So we're up to 4. He has the same type of MO with most of them, but he's definitely got a pattern. So, a month later, he would claim his 5th victim, and that was on July 14th, 1983. Graham Cunningham. I apologize if I screwed that up. That's what it looks like to me, though. And as I was reading this, it really shocked me because I didn't expect it. So it said, it was kind of like he was going on a trip with his friend and his dad. Well, come to find out, his friend and his dad was John and Bishop. I was like, what? So anyway, he was tricked into going back to Bishop's house on the premise of getting marijuana to sell. So he ended up hitting Grime with a hammer. He drowned him, and then him and John went to California, which was where they were supposed to go on a trip to, all of them. So the realization that Bishop was a common person in each child's life. So either the family knew Bishop or the children knew Bishop in some way. So the common denominator was Bishop. So then they started looking like, okay, wait a minute. This dude, he's got some connection to all of them. So clearly, there's something going on. So Bishop felt the pressure. It wasn't supposed to be an investigation, but it was more like a question session, but it made Bishop feel like he was being investigated. So he asked them to come to his home. I don't know if it was because he was proud of what he had done or if he had just knew he was defeated and then just decided to just tell it all. I'm not really sure. But when the police got there, they found more than 300 photos of boys, 125 naked boys, and they were cut out from magazines, and I'm not sure really what magazines, but anyway, I'm pretty sure he had whatever he had, connections to whatever, which was disgusting. But they identified and interviewed 21 of his victims that were photographed and essayed. Bishop, honestly, I think he was just proud of what he had done, and so he wanted it to be the shock factor. But he said that their estimates were really low and that they should double or triple the amount of what they've seen with their own eyes, because there's more. Another really just, bizarre was that he was able to confess all of this in under an hour. So, he knew every detail and everything and just was able to quick fire it all out and be done with it. So, when Bishop went to trial, he admitted to, of course, child pornography. And then Bishop apologized, and there's this big old long thing that he said, and I don't want anything to do with it, so I'm not going to read it. I don't care what he said. He's a messed up human being, and it's just... But he did say all this stuff to their families. You can look it up. It's disgusting. I wouldn't recommend it because it's just going to be like, you liar. You're disgusting. He ended up declining his last meal, and then this is what I found interesting, not because, I guess, Oklahoma, where I live, there's a lot more murders and stuff that end up in execution, but Arthur Bishop, at the time that my information was found, he was one of 7 executed in Utah since 1976 lethal injection. passed, or I know, like, so then another thing I found was that, and this is just about Utah because of this being from Utah. So of course there's lethal injection. Since 1976, there's been 7. He's been one of them. But there was also firing squads that were still used to kill people, accused and sentenced to death. The most recent being in 2010. I never even knew that was still going on. But in any case, yeah, that's the story of Mr. Bishop. I think he is a disgusting individual, and I think that the world is a better place without him. I do not support killing of anybody. I have a view of the death penalty and that kind of thing. I think that there comes a line where you know somebody's not going to come back from it. That's just kind of like, there's a line that they crossed that, especially with like murdering little boys and saying little boys, or just any children in general. I mean, it's almost like, you know, when an animal bites you or whatever, they look for it again. So, anyway, I think with this one, what can be learned is that, you know, always teach your children, do not accept anything from anybody. Like, even now, like, I used to have potluck lunches with coworkers and stuff, which I never would imagine that they would do anything. But, like, I always felt really weird because somebody else fixed my food that I was eating, and I didn't know how they fixed it, and, like, just all those things. So it's the same with, like, this type of situation where being offered candy, being offered skates, being offered just, you know, expensive toys, and that's a lure that will end in something catastrophic. So, I know God would never have wanted this to happen. He's not, you know, everybody has their own view about God, but, like, you know, like I said, I went through a lot of stuff throughout my years, and I could very well myself hate God. I mean, I could, but I don't. And part of that is just learning how to forgive, and some of that is just realizing that humans are humans, and whenever it comes down to it, I encountered a lot of bad people. I was never murdered, of course, but for somebody to do this where they step over that line, not necessarily that all of them would be deemed okay to put to death. I think when you murder somebody, it's definitely crossing a line that God said don't in his 10 Commandments. And so, I don't know. It's like, I wouldn't want anybody to play God. But at the same time, there are laws of the land, and there's laws that say, you know, if you do this, then you do this, based off of, like, either the judge saying it or a jury. So it definitely makes me wonder about things, but whenever I hear stories like this is whenever my heart goes, I'm glad he passed away and died, because he did some messed up stuff to children. And I think that that's just something it should be taken very seriously, like it was, and he's not here. So, this was a hard one because I don't like doing kids ones because there's just so many of them. And we dropped something. I'm back. My poor little plant. He got knocked off. But, so I'm pretty much done. I just, I don't know, like, what are your views on the death penalty and execution, and just, you know, is there a line that when it's crossed it's okay, or is it just in general it's not something that we should be taking into our own hands. Like, I'm just curious. I know mine is like, I go back and forth on some things, because it's like with kids, it pretty much lets me know, like, if you can do that too. But then again, like, anybody who murders somebody, like, if you can take it that far, you'll take it that far again. So it's like all you're doing is occupying space in a prison that all of us are paying for. And yet, you know, what if you're fighting in there and then kill somebody? You know, like, it's just a slippery slope, honestly, to me. I think in some instances okay, in other instances it's not, and I don't know why I think like that. I don't know, some of it hits me harder than some do. So, yeah, this is a story about those 5 beautiful boys who were taken way too soon and by a disgusting individual. I'm not even going to mention his name again. For the sake of the video, that's it. So that was 2. 2 for Texas, 2 for Utah, 2 for Oklahoma, and I did 1 for Detroit. So I believe I will be doing another Detroit, and I have some more coming. Also, too, like, I don't feel good a lot, so I try to make a video because these really interest me. I like doing the investigation, so I want to share what I found out and kind of give my opinion about it and stuff. But I also have another YouTube page about just talking about other things. It's brand new. I think I have 1 video on there. So I will try to link it in the information in here if you want to go check that out. I've just started, so there's like nobody there. But if you would support this YouTube page, Misery's Crime Company, like it, give me some advice if you have any. I don't mind. But I'll just continue doing what I'm doing, but I will link everything that I want to let you know about, and I'll see you on the next time. Thank you. Bye.